Mark Anthony Austin here, aka Boba Fett from Episode 4, A New Hope Special Edition. And you're listening to the Chronicles of Podcast.
Hey!
There he is.
Oh, yes, that is a set and a half, that. I feel like you're about to call in, like, airplanes or something.
Hello.
I love it. So, Route 914 is coming in for landing. Mark, that is a stellar headset, I'm not going to lie.
This is my Xbox gaming headset, but it's also now my podcast because it gets rid of all the echo.
Okay.
Yeah. Otherwise, I mean, I could do it without, but then you might get echo.
That's funny.
And also, you've got more chance of hearing Wookiee in the background as well. So he's not
Wookiee?
Quiet. Yeah, he's not very quiet. But now he is.
I'm assuming we don't mean like a 10-foot tall hairy creature.
Yeah, he's a 10-foot tall hairy creature.
Fair enough.
Just starts fucking shit up, and I was like, "What's going on?" I'm gonna have a little. Go on.
There'll be a moment where you'll be like reminded of him and be like, okay, that's Wookiee. Okay.
Yeah.
At some point.
Mark Austin had his arm ripped off during a live podcast recording the other day.
That's right. Get it on film.
Too right.
Oh, it goes out on YouTube anyway, so don't you worry, it's going to be there. All for the evidence. All for court.
Yep.
How are you anyway? Thank you for doing this.
Good. I'm good. It's actually a nice kind of relaxing weekend. This is the only thing I've got going on officially. So, yeah, it's good.
That's what we like. That's what we like. A nice relaxing weekend.
Yeah, we'll keep it nice and quick for you so you can get back to enjoying it. Like, I talked to two British idiots for some reason, and now.
Well, I've delegated. I set aside this whole hour for just you guys. So there you go.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Right, what we normally do is I just do a little intro, and then we just, as Tom likes to say, throw a fuck ton of questions at you. Sound good?
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Beautiful. Ladies and gentlemen, today we have another spectacular guest for you. Today's guest is a digital and graphics artist who has worked on some of the biggest Hollywood blockbusters. Like what, you ask? How about Star Trek Beyond, Detective Pikachu, Avengers, or maybe this small movie you may have heard of called Star Wars. As well as this, today's guest is one of the 6 people to portray the world's most badass bounty hunter, Boba Fett. Ladies and gents, welcome to the Chronicles of Mark Anthony Austin.
Thank you guys for having me on.
It's an absolute pleasure, an honor, a privilege. Any other adjective you can think of, it's that as well.
Awesome.
But Mark, seriously, man, how has the last year been for you, or the last year and a half now, should we say?
For me, it's been unbelievably kind of fortuitous, really. I mean, I was working for a long time, for 5 years. Can you hear Wookiee in the background?
Yeah.
We're live. I've been working for 5 years. I was working for 5 years for a motion picture company where I worked on a lot of those films that you mentioned, like Detective Pikachu, etc. And then I got an offer from Netflix, and I was like, "Oh man, should I take it?" I have they just offered me a staff position a year before. I really shouldn't be throwing away a staff position, and kind of umming and ahhing about it. And I really kind of took the job because it was a 40-hour work week, and I've been working for 15 years on a 50-hour work week, which is no fun. And Disney went to 50 hours about 2004, 2005. So, and then everyone else just jumped on the bandwagon. It's like there's no labor laws in the States. It's not like in England where, you can demand your holiday or show your doctor's note and get paid for that sick time. Here you have 5 sick days for the year.
5?
Use them wisely. Yeah, if you're sick for 2 weeks, that second week you're not paid. You only got 5 days, and you can accrue them over time, extra ones if you're really good. But there's no labor laws. Anyway, another story. That's another story. Netflix offered me this job, and I took it. And 2 weeks later, COVID dropped. So I was working in the studio 2 weeks, but Netflix were like, "Okay, we're gonna send you guys home. Think about what we're gonna do." So I was sitting at home for a week and a half, being paid, waiting for Netflix to tell me what was happening, and they just said, "We're gonna bubble wrap all your monitors, your keyboard, your Wacom tablet, the tower, everything, and send it to your home, and you're gonna work from home." So I've always wanted to work from home. It's just been really hard convincing studios in America to trust you're going to be working those 50 hours, And because I'm pretty fast at my job, they're less trustworthy of me, Did you really spend all 10 hours on that shot? I'm pretty fast, so I could, maybe on a shot, I could maybe bang one out in like 4 or 5 hours. But now we got working from home as standard, and they've seen no decrease in the amount of work done or the quality of work. And in fact, those two things have gone up. So I'm hoping that they're going to stick to like a hybrid version where we can work from home most of the week and just go in for like meetings one day. I'm hoping Mondays. But really, that decision, taking that Netflix job offer, kind of saved me. And so the last year and a half have been great. I've been working on 2 features for them. I'm still working on the second one. And I can tell you what it is. It's an Ultraman, if you know who Ultraman is. But it's an Ultraman anime, animated feature. Kind of Ultraman meets Spider-Verse, hopefully. Kind of a
That's really cool.
Of those two, yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah,
amazing. But take us back, so what was the original plan for young Master Austin? Was it always art and design that interested you?
Yeah, well, I originally wanted to be a children's book illustrator.
Oh, nice.
That's what I went to college for. I went to college for children's book illustration. I just love to draw, paint. I still do. But that was the plan. And when I did the diploma course in Havering Tech, which is over in Havering, Essex, at the end of the diploma course, they're meant to kind of like pair you up with a college. And they said, is there anything that you haven't done in the past, the year that you've wanted to? And I said, I've always wanted to try my hand at animation. They're like, well, we don't have nobody that can teach you that. We don't have anyone qualified, so you're going to have to just do some storyboards. And if you really want to do that as a college program, you're going to have to take along a whole bunch of storyboards and hope you get in on those. And luckily I did. So that's how I end up in animation. But then my first job, I was a bartender for a year and a half without a job. I thought I was going to be a bartender for life. I loved being a bartender, but after that, I got a job offer from an animation commercials studio in Soho. So I was making the Tetleys Tea bag commercials and Ribena commercials back in the day.
Was that the Johnny
early
Vegas
90s.
Ones? Was that the
Sorry?
No, they're not the Johnny Vegas ones, are they? The Tetley, that was PG Tips. Wrong one. Sorry, my bad. I'll shut up.
Yeah. It was the floppy hat guys,
Yeah,
I remember.
Yeah, and they had the round bags. When I went there, they came up with this new thing. It was like a round tea bag. What? A round one? So we did a whole commercial campaign on round tea bags in the early 90s. And so it's fun. In fact, everyone knew my work, but nobody knew I'd done it. So you're kind of anonymous. You're even more anonymous, I should say. As an animator, you're kind of anonymous because your characters are well known. Everyone knows Foxy Loxy from Chicken Little, but nobody knows that I created Foxy Loxy. But in commercials, you're even less known because there's no credits at the end of the movie. So I did that for 5 years. Yeah, I did that for 5 years. Everyone knew my work. Nobody knew I did it. And making that jump to movies, you're more likely to get credit. I've been missed on the credit list probably 20 or 25% of the movies I've worked on. just because VFX has no union and it's a union-based industry. So they'll admit as many of those VFX artists as they can to get the credits running as long as they want it to.
I was going to say why, but I suppose, so it's not like going ridiculously
forever.
long.
Yeah. They want it running a certain amount of time. And it used to be if you worked less than 3 months on a movie, then you weren't going to get credit. But if you worked over 3 months, then you were guaranteed a credit. That's not the case now, because some movies I've worked, 6 months on, like Love and Monsters, that was up for the Oscar. I didn't get a credit on that, but I worked on that for about 6 months.
Bloody hell.
But, it's not very fair. I wish they would unionize. I'm unionized again because when I was at Disney, you have to join the cartoonist union, and now I'm back with feature animation. I'm back in the cartoonist union, so at least I'm guaranteed credits on this movie and the last one I worked on.
So, did going to college then, when you wanted to be a children's book illustrator, did that make you then go, oh, actually, animation sounds pretty cool?
Well, I've always loved it ever since a kid. I used to live in Hornchurch, Essex, and I used to live walking distance to the cinema. And so on Saturday mornings, we used to go to the cinema, and I loved the old Disney classics. I loved Warner Brothers, the old Tex Avery, Tom and Jerry's and Bugs Bunny's.
Oh.
So I always looked for that Fred Quimby at the end of the credits. I knew it was going to be a good Tom and Jerry then. I wasn't a big fan of Chuck Jones. He's a nice guy. I met him, but I was never a fan of his version of Bugs Bunny or his version of Tom and Jerry. But I always loved animation, and so I didn't ever think I'd get the opportunity to do some. So that's why when I was asked, is there anything you haven't done? That was the only thing I could think of. It's like something that I wish I could do, and it wasn't offered in that general art course as a diploma course.
Yeah. So you wanted to broaden your horizons, basically, and they weren't offering that to you.
Yeah. And it was kind of, I was kind of late in the game to kind of voice that as something that I was interested in. But it worked out. I got in at the college in West Surrey College of Art and Design in Surrey, and did my Bachelor of Arts degree, and my film got nominated for a BAFTA award. So
nice.
Yeah.
That's
I didn't
incredible.
win, but I got nominated.
You can still say BAFTA nominated. That's all that matters.
Yeah.
That's amazing though. So if you hadn't turned around on that whim and just gone animation,
I would never
be where you got today. That's amazing.
That's my whole life. My whole life has been those forks that just suddenly appear, and the straight fork is this one, but I've always opted for that one, and it's led me to this place.
So you moved from London doing those TV commercials straight to ILM. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, when I was working on the commercials, the company I was working for, they'd been going for like 35 years. They did all the old home fried flour grader commercials back in the day, the black and white ones. They did a lot of trailers that you saw between movies in the theater. So they'd been going for years and years. The guys were 63 and 65, and they wanted to retire. So they closed shop. Everyone was made redundant. And so I was out of a job. And a friend of mine went along to an ILM lecture in, it was in Leicester Square. And they were doing a lecture talking about how they did the realistic dinosaur effects in Jurassic Park. So I got a phone call from my friend who went to this lecture, like really late at night, like midnight or something. He said, I've just been for a drink with the guys. I said, what guys? the ILM guys. I've just been for a drink with them, and they're looking for animators. So I was like, yeah, but you're talking about computers, aren't you? And so he goes, yeah, but they want guys that are traditional animators, pencil and paper animators. They want to teach them the software because it's so easy to learn. It's like an 8 to 10 week course, and you're off and running as a computer animator. The other way around is if you're a technical guy that knows the computer and has to learn animation, that's like a years and years process, you know. I mean, it took, even though I had a college film that got nominated, it took a lot longer to, you know, learn animation where I was comfortable with, you know, every aspect of animation, walk cycles, run cycles, perspective, that kind of thing, timing especially. So ILM were opting for this shorter route. They were hiring all these 2D animators, teaching them the computer because they wanted a whole crew ready for Casper. The first time they beautiful character that was the main character. He had to talk, he had to act. They were really worried about having people that are so high level
That's amazing. And was the course as hard as you were thinking, or was it like, no, this is actually quite easy?
It was like being paid to have fun. It was like video games. Like paid to play video games. I really felt like it was a year and a half contract. I felt for the whole 18 months that I was being paid to be on vacation and have fun every day. And they would send you home at 6 o'clock. And I'd be like, oh really? I just want to finish. No, you've got to go. Union. It was a union back then as well. And I just want to finish. No, you've got to leave. So I literally got kicked off of my machine at 6 o'clock. I would have played into the evening probably.
Would have the film finished by the end of the
But no, it was good. I did the training course. And during the training course, they promoted me to lead animator for Casper. Promoted another guy who's Phil Robinson to be the lead supervising animator for Karaoke Trio. So I had Casper, Phil had the Karaoke Trio, and we both did teams. And yeah, it was so fun. I really thought that I was going to get sent home after that movie, but then they sent me to HR. They sent me to human resources. And I was going to fill out the paperwork for go home or something. Get my tickets or something. They said, okay, Mr. Austin, you're moving on to Star Wars: A New Hope. I'm like, what? Am I? And they said, yeah, we have you down as a full-time employee. Is that okay? And I'm like, I'm sure. I just have to call my mum. So like, I'm not going to come home. I'm not coming home. You know, don't go to Gatwick. Not going to be there. Not going to be
so
there.
you sort of accidentally permanently moved to America. That's amazing.
It's funny. It's like normally you have to go through all these hoops of fire to like get, you know, a work visa here. But yeah, they literally just shoved it in my pocket and said, "Is this okay?" Okay. So yeah, I stayed at ILM for another 6 months, 7 months.
That's amazing.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, and got to work on Star Wars, which was even better.
Well, yeah, we'll talk about that a bit more later. But
Okay.
but with your work as an animator and stuff, how much of a film does one person do? Like,
Yeah.
And how long does it take roughly? Is it like, right, you are going to animate this scene and then you're done, off you pop? Or is it, you know, I don't know. Yeah, so I'm asking.
Yeah. What? Okay. When I was doing the Tetleys Tea bag commercials, your rate was 10 seconds per week. So if I did a 30-second Tetley commercial, I'd have to have a third done every week. Then 3 weeks, everything had to be done. And I thought that was a normal rate. You know, that sounded pretty okay to me. I didn't know any different. Then I get to the States and they give me my first Casper shot. And my first Casper shot is 3 seconds long. I'm used to 10 seconds a week. They gave me a 3-second shot and it said, okay, here you go. So I did the shot and I'm done. They said, well, you got to wait till tomorrow till we go into dailies. And I said, well, can I have another shot? No. It's one shot per animator per week. So that was the standard. So, you could have a longer shot, a 6-second shot, and that would be you have to get the 6 seconds done in a week, or you could get your 3-second shot done in a week. But whatever it is, you have a week to do it. If it's a complex shot, then it goes into like 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4. But if it's just, my first shot was Casper doing this, like Christina Ricci, just doing that, the fingers. And they were looking at the fingers uncurling, and it wasn't until, I don't know if you've ever tried it, but if you try and uncurl your fingers and all your fingers doing exactly the same movement, it's pretty impossible. They all move a bit differently.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I did that kind of detail that it kind of looked right. So it kind of did take a week to get to that point where I realized what was wrong with it, what wasn't working. But I had nothing to do. They said, well, put your shot into dailies and go home. Or play pool or something. So it was like, as I said, it was like being on vacation, like and being paid.
That's incredible.
That is amazing.
With the changes in technology over the years, though, has that changed, or is that still pretty much what they expect?
It's pretty much the same still. It still takes one animator, one shot per week, usually. What they do is they usually give them an A, B, or C level of difficulty. C being really hard, A being really easy. So that determines if you have more than 1 week, but usually it's one shot per animator per week. When I went into cinematography, which is previs, where you're doing rough versions of the shot for like feature films, basically your rough version goes to final effects and they do the clean version. But that was one shot per animator per day when I started. And now the standard is 2 shots per animator per day for previs. So in a week, you get 10 shots done.
Incredible. I mean, do you get to bring ideas to the table, or do they basically go, this is what we want from you?
Depends on the show, depends on the director. Sometimes the director doesn't even get involved. They just send their effects supervisor to organize it. So sometimes you get to work with the director. I prefer working with the director, but if the director's got a good liaison with the effects supervisor, I mentioned I worked on Love and Monsters.
Yeah.
And on that, I never saw the director once. He was in Queensland, Australia, shooting the movie. I was working with Matt Sloan in Los Angeles, and we were doing our dailies like really late in the day, which was early morning there. But Matt Sloan, it turned out, I didn't realize who Matt Sloan was. And we got really near the end of our 6 months working together, when suddenly he dropped this bomb on me saying that he was Plo Koon. Oh, what? Why don't I know this? I've been working with Plo Koon for 5 months. I said, well, you know, I'm Boba Fett. So we had this weird kind of, yeah, strange. But I prefer working with the directors most of the time.
I can imagine. But especially like we were just saying with Star Wars then, was that like a completely different kettle of fish to what it used, because that's not a new film, is it? You know, you're enhancing an old film.
Yeah, but still the same. It's the same thing. You still have. We had storyboards. I wish I had those storyboards still. And the storyboards, they had Jabba on this repulsor sled, like a floating version of his throne, but thinner. And the reason they rejected it is because they thought his eye line would be too high compared to Harrison if he was on this sled. So that's when they put him on the floor. And but still, the process is the same. You still have your what they want the shot to be. Usually, the director gives you his vision, and yeah, you do have some to and fro. Like on some of the shots I worked on. I put in suggestions and they got accepted. Like there was a shot in New Hope where the dewback, the bald was the dewback's butt in the camera, and it's just walking away. They're just walking away. And I said to George, I said,
what a name drop.
I feel like it can be. I didn't say less ugly. can't remember how I phrased it, but a better shot if we have the dewback, facing the camera, and the stormtrooper's coaxing it, and then it turns around, and we hook up with the next shot, and so that end up in the movie. But that was just I just did that version, and I put 2 versions into Dailies, and he picked version B, which was the alternate version.
Which makes more sense, to be fair. You want to know more what it is, not just see the dewback's arse,
It was just an ugly shot. It was nothing appealing. I mean, I like dewbacks, but nothing appealing about just seeing a dewback's butt in camera. But I had to block out that version. So when you block out, you don't usually put the walk in. You just slide the characters. You want to buy off on how fast they're moving, because then you know how large the paces are going to be. So first of all, you slide the characters through. If the director is no faster, then you have to go to a run or a trot instead of a walk. But I slid the dewbacks through on that first shot with the ugly butt, and then I slid the character through on the second one. And when I put it into Dailies, actually, it's a funny story that the producer saw it in the lineup, and he said, "What's this second shot?" And I said, "Oh, that's an alternate version, Tom." So he goes, "Oh no, you've got to take that out. That's disrespectful to Mr. Lucas, because Mr. Lucas is surrounded by his kind of yes men, I called them. You have to break through the yes men, communicate properly." But I got told to take it out of Dailies, and had I done that, it would never be in the movie. It's another one of those faults, and I opted for that one. I was about to delete it, and I went, "Fuck it." I'm leaving it in. I don't care. Whatever the consequence is, I don't care. But the thing is, it was I'm so glad I did, because, like I said, George was it seemed very kind of like, almost like he had something better to do. Didn't seem that invested in watching, watching these dailies go past. And then something different came up on the screen, this alternate version, and suddenly he perks up. "Oh, what's this?" And so my hand goes up at the back of the room. And I said, "So, Mr. Lucas, that's an alternate version. There's a version A, version B, whichever one you like." And he suddenly started getting invested in the shot. We were talking about it and talking about what was better about it, what was ugly about the other shot, or less interesting. I mentioned about the dewback could turn and swish its tail, and its sand could, that was fun to do all the sand. It was literally a sphere, because we had a ground plane of the sand dune, and underneath it I made a large sphere, and I poked it through and scaled it, and we just applied the texture of sand on top of that, and it looks like the dewback's kicking all this sand across, but it's just a flattened sphere, like a disc expanded with a grain on it, sand grain texture. Worked out well. Looked like the dewback was in the plate, affecting the environment, And I made another shape around the dewback's foot. I got the modeler to make me a kind of an imprint of the foot, and I pushed it up through the sand. When the foot came down, it came up, so it looked like the sand was being pushed up around the foot as it,
Yeah.
Worked out well. But like I said, it was like having fun and being paid for it.
Yeah.
It still does feel like that, actually, to this day. So, because my mother always said, you better choose a career that you love to do, because that's a third of your life. So make sure it's something that you love doing, and you'll be all right. So, yes, Mum.
So from ILM, you went on to work for Disney. So what was it that made you make the jump? Was it just ILM had nothing else for you, or was it just I want to change?
I was working, like I said, I was working on New Hope and very happy. And so Disney were on the phone because they saw the credits list on Casper. "Oh, look at those supervising animators. Let's grab those guys." So they're called the Disney Headhunters. So I had a phone call at my desk. "This is Disney, blah, blah, blah. Here's a large sum of money." So I said, "Well, actually, Disney, I'm kind of happy where I am. Thank you."
Turned down the mouse.
I didn't want to work for Disney. I didn't want to work for Disney because they'd already rejected my portfolio prior to getting the job at ILM. So they'd already, from England, I had to send my portfolio to the States. They kept it for all these rounds and rounds they did of evaluation. And after like 3 or 4 weeks, they finally sent me a letter saying, oh no, we made it to round 3, but no. So I said, well, thanks. I couldn't apply to any other jobs in the whole month because I only have one portfolio. It's not like nowadays where you can send a link. You know, it was literally a portfolio and a VHS of your movie, you know. So I was like, those bastards, I'm never going to work for them. You know?
Fuck that mouse.
So when they said, here's a large sum of money. No thanks. Boom. And then maybe a week or so later, I had another phone call. Here's even more money. I told you I'm happy where I am. Click. This went on for maybe 4 or 5 times, and then it got so ridiculous. I'm like, wow. They thought I was playing hardball, I guess. They thought I was like, you know, negotiating. I wasn't. I was, like I said, I was happy where I was. But in the end, it got to the point where I had some friends that had left and went to Disney, and they were telling me all about the artist development that they had down there. And I loved Lucasfilm. It was probably the hardest decision. Those forks in the road, this was the biggest, by far, fork that I'd ever... I still wonder what would have happened if I'd stayed at ILM. You know, they did offer me the animation director on the prequels as a kind of an incentive to stay, and I said no. I said I didn't think I was ready to supervise a movie. I didn't think I wouldn't have done it justice. I wasn't qualified at that stage, and it took going to Disney to get to the stage where I feel confident enough I could do that now. Well, I've done it a number of times now, but at that time, I did feel like I would be letting the fans down. I wouldn't have been qualified enough. And they put Rob Coleman in as the animation director, and he did an okay job. So
I was going to say that's a lot of pressure.
Yeah. I didn't want that pressure. I was having too much fun. It was fun being a supervisor of a character and or creature supervisor, which I was on New Hope. But to supervise an entire movie with an entire crew, I was much better at being hands-on, much better at doing it myself. So, I think I made the right decision. I think, you know, everything worked out the way it did. So I've got no complaints about my career path.
But you did several big movies at Disney, though. You know, you did Dinosaur, Meet the Robinsons. You know, is that a case of, again, like Casper, like you are in charge of this character?
Yeah. Dinosaur, we were all just they hadn't assigned any characters to any artist at that stage, and I did a test where they wanted kind of behavioral animations for, like, they wanted you to look at kind of like nature footage, like David Attenborough, pick something that was people would recognize. So I did. Have you ever seen a horse taking a dust bath?
Nope.
They kind of roll on the floor. They roll on the floor and they get themselves. Dogs do it as well, or cats. They kind of roll in the dust. So I did this 4.5-ton dinosaur doing a dust bath. Rubbing itself on the floor and stuff.
That's amazing.
And they just loved that piece. They loved it. It was 400 frames long, and they were going for the majesty of dinosaurs. And my only concern was, most of our shots come in at 3 seconds long. That's like the average, 3 or 4 seconds. But for the majesty of dinosaurs, you need a lot of time because they're big. Takes a lot of time. So my concern was that they weren't going to give us the time, and they didn't. But we had workarounds to kind of cheat the believability of those dinosaurs moving as fast as they wanted them to, but still maintain that they're 4.5 tons. So, but they assigned me Aladar because of that. So I got the hero character again. So I was kind of pigeonholed as like the hero character animator, and I was kind of getting a bit worried about that because the hero character can't deviate too far from being the hero. He can't be too angry. He can't be, he got to stay on his career, this hero path. And so I didn't want to be, the hero guy the whole my career. It's much better to have some variety like that. The villains are fun. So I tried to break out, after Dinosaur, tried to break out of that hero pigeonhole. And Treasure Planet came next, and luckily I got the comic relief, which was the crazy Ben Martin Short voiced character in that movie. So
I haven't seen that film in a long time.
Yeah, nor have I. Nor have I. I have to watch it again. It's very underrated, that movie.
It is, to be fair. But the thing that caught my eye with your work at Disney is the fact you did like a 3D attraction for Disney World.
Yeah, the Mickey's PhilharMagic. It made my brain ache.
I was going to say that was a face of Vietnam flashbacks. That was.
It was dealing with the whole. When you have a character and he's meant to be on the stage and he's meant to be so high. When you bring him over the audience, you have to, he's going to get so big. He's going to be like. So you have to shrink the character down, but not too fast because he's got to grow in size as it comes through, and then grow in size. It goes, it just is a mind meld. And they gave me, I did in that. Have you ever seen it? Have you ever been to?
I've not, no.
I'd love to go.
In the end of it, there's a vortex, a hurricane, a tornado. And swept up into it is Donald Duck and 60 instruments. And I had to animate all those 60. And he has to, at one part, be on a double bass and paddling with a violin. And next minute, he's bouncing on kettle drums. And it was a nightmare to orchestrate those 60 objects swirling. And yeah,
you could tell which one of us worked on it then, because you're describing it. Me and Tom are like, that sounds amazing. Whereas you're like, this was the worst moment of my entire career.
It was tough. It was tough. It was worth it in the end.
Well, I was going to say, was it satisfying to go on the ride afterwards and yeah, I did that?
It was cool to see it. It was cool to see it. It's always cool to see your work on the big screen and kind of unchanged. Sometimes they change things up. But most of the time, when I see it, it's just like a tidier version of the last time I saw it. Also, you get used to hearing the scratch music on a lot of the stuff we work on. We have a temp music track, and you get so used to that music when you see it in the final, and it's this whole, scored orchestra doing another thing. It's like, I kind of miss the temp music. You get so used to it. It takes you a while to get used to the new music.
So when you watch movies now, then the ones that you've never worked on or you don't work with or whatever, does it spoil it for you a little bit because you're like, well, I would have done that instead of that, I would have done this instead of this?
Maybe, yeah. Some of the times it does. Even watching Mandalorian, there's a shot where he's flying in the Razor Crest, and you got X-wings both sides, and they're talking to him, saying, you should be flying here. Now, when he looks at this side, it's the X-wing is a certain relationship to Razor Crest. When he looks at the other side, I would have made it slightly different, further away, just to make them not look like a mirror.
Yeah.
But if you watch it, it's like a mirror. I'm like, I wouldn't have done that. I wouldn't have done that. I would have made it further away or lower or doing something so it's not the opposite of that. Boring. That's just me. So yeah, I can't help but I can't switch that off. So.
That's amazing. I love that. So you obviously moved away from animation for a while and went and worked in pre and post visualization. What made you make the change?
Literally, it was I had to get out of Disney.
Okay.
I had to. It got to a point where Disney wasn't fun to work at for me.
Okay.
It got very political when John Lasseter came in. John Lasseter comes in as the head of the studio. He doesn't know who does what, so it became a big kind of look at me, and got very cutthroat, very political. And I just want to make movies. So I was working on Bolt. That was the last movie I worked on, and I had a contract. I had to obligate. I've never broken a contract, and I wasn't prepared to at that stage. So I thought I'd just see it through to the end of the contract, and then I'm going to get out. And so that's what I did. That's why I left.
I'm not going to lie. You and a previous guest we spoke to are not making Disney sound like a great company to work for.
I'm just saying from experience, from experience. I'm sure they were. I mean, when I first joined Disney, I loved it. They treated you less like a number and more like an artist. That kind of died a death towards the end of the 90s, and I'm sure it was much better to work for Disney when Walt Disney was alive. We had a strong head of the studio. I'm sure that's it. Kind of working for Netflix reminds me of what it must have been like to work for Disney, because Netflix treat you very respectfully. They treat you as an artist. Your opinion isn't just noted; you get it written down in a you get the minutes for the meetings, and you've got a little MA and everything I said.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's like, so I make sure I don't just talk bollocks. I make sure I have a point when I speak, because someone's going to write that down. So
I was going to say,
make sure you have a point before speaking.
Just looking over at the guys writing the minutes, like, I'm going to say as many words as I can, as fast as I can.
Yeah. I'm going to use words he doesn't even know what they mean. I use English words. Just like knickknacks. They don't know what knickknacks are. Like, what's a knickknack? You know, like bits and bobs. What's that? Oh,
brilliant.
Yeah, they haven't got a word.
I love that there's so many English phrases we don't even realise the Americans don't know.
No. The worst part is when you go and get your car fixed, because I don't know. I knew trunk and I knew hood, and I thought they were the only differences. So I said, I've got a crack in my windshield. No, windscreen, I said. And I said, a windscreen? What's that? Yeah, a windscreen. You mean a windshield? That's the same difference, isn't it? Like, they have. Then my indicator's busted. What's an indicator? That thing. Oh, you mean your signal? Okay, or whatever. Fix it, please. Cars are the worst.
That's so literal with Americans, though. I love it, because the pathway is a sidewalk. Because we walk on it and it's on the side.
Yeah. And even motorway. I mean, it's so obvious what a motorway is, but because you haven't said freeway. Yeah,
that makes me laugh.
Crazy.
So obviously you explained to us before what pre-viz was, but what's post-viz exactly?
Okay. Post-viz, you usually do pre-viz, and you're basically designing the shots, so in a virtual world. So you have a virtual set, virtual actors, virtual effects, virtual vehicles. You shoot everything. You choose the lens for the camera, the position, the height of the camera, the movement of the camera. All those things get translated, to the live action shoot. So they shoot the live action plate. And so, for instance, the Avengers. In the previous for the Avengers, we contacted all of the buildings near to the MetLife building, which was going to be Tony Stark's tower. And we asked which of these buildings would allow roof access for shooting. And so all the buildings that allowed roof access, they're where we put our cameras. So that a camera crew can go along there, go to the roof, set the camera up, put that lens on, put the camera that height, shoot whatever it is. So post-viz is when you get those plates back. So you get those plates that they've shot, you put Iron Man onto that panning shot that they did, and make sure that it works. So you're basically pairing your previs with what they've shot. So you take your virtual set away and you put your characters in front of what is essentially a 2D plate in the camera in Maya. So in the 3D world, there's a screen and your character's in front of it, but it looks like he's in the plate. You light it so that he looks like he's being affected the same way as the plate is by light sources or effects. And it's basically a final check. So that's what we did on Pikachu. Detective Pikachu, it was mostly post-viz. They knew what they wanted to shoot. They shot it. We had to put the Pokemon in there. I had to learn what the Pokemon were because I was very ignorant of Pokemon before that
I
show.
do the same, don't worry.
I had to learn all their names, put them all in, and show it to the director. And the director said, "Yeah, it's not working for me. I've got this other plate we can maybe use, and you have to redo it with this new plate." That's the difference between pre-viz and post-viz. You're working with their shot plates, maybe cropping into them or enlarging them, or putting two plates together and trying to marry them. It's like a puzzle. It's like a puzzle, taking all the pieces and combining it with what they've shot to give an approval on that to go to final effects.
I mean, you've worked on some insane movies. Your list was endless. But when you were asked to work on Avengers and Thor: The Dark World, like that must have blown your mind in a way, because look how massive the MCU is now.
Yeah. And at the time, I didn't know that was the strategy. There'd just been Iron Man 1 and 2, and I think Thor. But when I got to work on Avengers, I didn't know that it had this big... They talked about that they had plans, but it's crazy how far that Avengers stretched out. And I think the first Avengers really holds up compared to the others.
Beautiful
Still
film.
to this day. Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. But it was great just working with Joss Whedon. He was amazing to work with. His favorite thing to do was to go past my workstation and he'd say, "Let's see your background." And I had to show him my background because every day I had a different Scarlett Johansson background. And Joss knew it. So Joss would come by and goes, "Let's see the background. How's that?"
That's incredible.
I've seen Black Widow 150 times.
My friend, I think they did want everyone to go to Albuquerque to do some to finish up the show, and I opted to stay in Los Angeles and had like a small crew here, satellite crew, but the rest of the guys went to Albuquerque and working on the film set. And a friend of mine, David Bajorquez, his name is, he went down had like a ANHSE stand, shaved ice.
Yeah.
He was at the ANHSE stand, and he said in the aluminum backing, it's a little kind of like a hot dog seller, had an aluminum back to this thing. In this aluminum back, which is like a mirror, he sees Black Widow walking towards him, and she's still got all like the blood makeup, like she just had kicked someone's ass. And she comes up to the stand. She goes like, "Hey, how's it going?" And he said, "I just thought of you when she did that." I said, "Well, Dave," I said, "you telling me the story, I kind of have lived it vicariously through you. So thank you for that. Thank you for that."
Imagine you there, you're like, "Do you want mine?
Yeah.
I'll buy you another 4."
I would. My tongue would be on the floor, like, oh, I wouldn't know what to. It'd be useless. You
forget every word of the English language.
Yeah. Be gone.
So, as Tom was just saying, the list of films you've worked on, if we were to go for every film you've worked on, we would be here for about 10 hours. It is ridiculous. Yeah. So I wanted to ask, because obviously, like Avengers, as you mentioned, Oz the Great and Powerful, San Andreas, the X-Men movies, absolutely tons. Are there any particular projects that stand out to you, whether it be good or bad?
Yeah. I mentioned Avengers again because that was like a year working on it. So much fun. So I really felt like, because sometimes you just get one sequence to work on. So some movies, I could tell you the part I worked on. It's usually the most expensive part because they want to plan that one out and know what they're going to do ahead of inviting, so many actors in. They know who's going to be in a shot exactly. You can see it on the previews. But so Avengers is definitely up there. But Warhorse was amazing just because I'd worked for Spielberg on Casper, but we'd only worked via satellite. And working on Warhorse, he wanted us to work in his right next to his office in Universal. So he was in his office, and we were down in this kind of little kind of building, like a one-story building. And he would either come down or we'd go up to his office. I loved his office just because we'd be in there waiting. He had 2 rooms. His main office where he did all his phone calls and that, and his conference room. So we'd be in the conference room and waiting for him to finish up his phone calls. And I'm looking around. This is my first day in his office. I was looking around and I saw a sled, a bobsled on the wall with Rosebud on it. I said, that is not the original Rosebud from Citizen Kane, is it? And it was in a Perspex case. It was Orson Welles' sled from Citizen Kane.
Oh my God.
What? Crazy. His office. But it's just awesome. Like, you know, I'll be sitting here, Spielberg will be there. We'll be showing him stuff on a laptop. And just, you're hoping that being that close, you kind of soak up some of that genius. It's like sunbathing in genius.
Let me touch you, Mr. Spielberg. I want some of this.
We did. We got photos with him. I posted some on my social media. But I felt really bad asking him because one of the other guys said, do you mind if we get a photo? And I was like, oh, he's going to say no. He's like, sure. Actually, the light's much better over here. And he directed the whole thing.
Of course he did.
It was awesome. So Warhorse is up there. I guess any shows that have been either really fun, like 300, Rise of an Empire. Wasn't a big blockbuster movie, but so much fun to work on just because of the banter in the room. We had a really good room. Detective Pikachu was so much fun because I had such an awesome crew. And that was, again, like maybe 7-8 months working on that show. And we got to work over at Legendary in Burbank. And yeah, just such a good crew and good rapport with the director. So it was the second time I worked with him. I worked with the same director on Goosebumps 1, so I already knew him at that stage. So, well, that's Rob. Was it Rob Latimer?
Knows him really well.
Blanking on the name. Fun.
So how come you didn't get to go on to do the other MCU movies then? Is it because it's all done by different people?
Each one is its own separate thing. So when we were working on Avengers, they were also on the same studio lot, but a different building, working on Captain America. And so a couple of times I had to loan a couple of my guys to the Captain America crew. Like, all right, you can have him, but I want him back tomorrow. And a funny thing, I loaned this artist, his name was David Block. I loaned him to Captain America, and I was going over there to see if I can drag him back. We had some fire I needed him to put out. So I went over there, and I'm wearing my Boba Fett hoodie, which I always wore. Hit the elevator button, ding, opens up. There's Joe Johnson, and there's me with that Boba Fett hoodie, like saying, "Oh, hello, Mr. Director." Walks past. Looks me up and down, because he designed the Boba Fett suit. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I didn't realize that then. Oh.
Joe Johnson designed the Boba Fett suit. So it's funny that I'm wearing his design. And he didn't know that I was Boba Fett. He didn't know at that time.
Is this a cheeky little, good lad? Good lad.
Just look like a major fanboy.
He's like a lumberjack. He's a big guy, Joe Johnson. Big guy.
That's amazing. With all these films you've worked on, though, have you ever watched it back and seen a scene that you didn't work on and go, "Mother, I would have loved to have done that. Why didn't I get that one?"
Well, some you have to delegate. Some you can't take all the good scenes, and you wouldn't be a good supervisor. So one of the scenes I really wanted, I gave away, was Hulk and Loki.
Oh.
But the guy who wanted it, he really that's the only thing he wanted to do. He picked that one thing, and he's a good animator, so okay, I'll let you have that. But I'm doing the Hulk punch for the jumbo. I'm always angry.
Yeah.
So I took that and gave him But yeah, there's always scenes you want to do, but it's having the time to do them, because usually they have they kind of break the sequence down into chunks, and you have a chunk to deliver by a certain day. So you can't do everything yourself.
Just thinking then, as you're talking about what you worked on Avengers, did I see on your Instagram that you did the group shot, the one in New York where it circles them all?
Yeah.
That was the best scene in the whole film. Kush to that one.
That was cool, because we had to find the dimensions of that bridge, so we could know what kind of size camera track we could lay down for that orbit shot, and then I had to fit all the characters within that. And it was a fun shot, but Joss kept changing the order that they were in, so I had to redo it. And when you redo it, as you're going past each character, you're seeing another character in the background doing something, like Iron Man coming down or whatever. So you have to redo all the characters every time, so there must have been about 65 versions of that.
Oh my God!
Jesus Christ.
It was up in the 60s. You do a version number, and not all of those are versions you show. You might work on version 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Show version 9. Oh no, okay, work on it again. But it ended up like 65 at the end of that. I think it was about 5 or 6 different changes in the order, and the one that they finaled was different when I saw the movie.
Oh,
different, yeah. Because I had Hulk up on some taxis. There was 2 taxis, yellow cabs.
Yeah.
And he was up on top of that, and that wasn't. They started it with Hulk in the final one. He just roars into camera. So they kind of mix and matched pieces of what I'd done before. Those 5 different versions. They're taking like pieces of let's take the Hulk roaring from this bit. Yeah.
That's incredible.
It was a fun shot. Turned out good, and they show on everything. All the HBO commercials, they'll show that shot.
I know if that's me, I'll be like, I did that.
Yeah, there'll be an HBO thing, and it was showing all of their movies, and like I'll be nudging the wife and saying, "Yeah, I did that shot. Oh, I did that like 8 times, 8 different shots."
I know, Mark.
So
yeah.
Another movie you worked on, which is heftily CGI, I imagine, is Ready Player One.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
that only worked on a small portion. It was the race.
Okay.
The race.
Yeah.
Cars. And the other part was, what's the other part I worked on that? Oh, the fight. They had a fight. They changed it. They changed it between originally it was Mechagodzilla versus Ultraman. Which is funny because I'm working on Ultraman now. But it's Mechagodzilla versus Ultraman, and they swapped him out for Gundam, I think, for the final thing.
I'm trying
to think. It's been a while since I watched it.
There's another Japanese kind of giant mecha. But it was fun doing the DeLorean car chase. That was a lot of fun. And working especially on the Akira bike. And they had the Blade Runner spinners in there. They had King Kong. There's a lot going on in those shots. So the whole King Kong, DeLorean, Akira bike bit was fun to do. I had to kind of do that part where the bike goes off. And Hulk smashes through. King Kong smashes through the tracks. And
yeah, he does. Yeah, I remember that bit.
That must have been awesome, just getting to play with all these different toys from different franchises.
Yeah, it was. That movie especially, because there were so many, it was such a weird mixture of all the different IPs.
That's amazing. Tom, did you have any more questions about movies-wise before we move on to the world's favourite bounty hunter?
I just, going back to back in the day, obviously, before CGI became a thing, how everyone used models and molds, and they had people in like stuff. Like CGI has changed movies so much.
Too much.
This is what was going to be my question. Like, do you think it's gone too far?
Yeah, it's definitely gone too far. It got to the point where they were making a choice to go digital, just so that they had an out. And I was like, well, that's not how to. You're looking at shot. How can I best do this? Make this shot. When you design a shot, a lot of the post-viz and pre-viz process, you're designing how they're going to practically do it. So, like in Goosebumps 2, they had a small budget. They wanted to do these transformations of creatures, and so we came up with easy ways they could do it cheaply. But you're basically working out how they can use practical in a smart way.
Mm.
And then when they choose to do it all digital, just so that they have the chance to go back later and say, I want to change stuff. It's like, oh, what's the point of us designing the best way to make this shot if you're going to just nix all that and say, I want it digital? I didn't understand why they did a digital Jabba the Hutt. When we were working on those scenes, I was like, but Jabba in Jedi was as real as any of the other characters. Like, you didn't question Jabba. He wasn't like, some puppets aren't convincing. There was that polecat or meerkat in Mandalorian that didn't look real. There was a puppet. There was a part with Cara Dune and that little meerkat thing.
I think I know the one you mean.
Not the best puppetry. It didn't convince me. But Jabba in Return of the Jedi, he was real as Luke, as Leia. So I didn't understand why they went the digital route. George was in love with digital purely for the reason that you can recycle. So if you do an animation of a stat battle droid standing up, you have 1,000 stat battle droids standing up with just one piece of animation.
That's amazing.
So
Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah.
When we worked on putting the creatures in, I couldn't understand why the creature's skin wasn't working with the skeleton. And then I found out later that they'd taken the brachiosaur from Jurassic Park, slapped a new skin on it, and hey presto, the brachiosaur is now Ronto. But the scurriers that run out of the way of the land speeder, are raptors, velociraptors.
That has blown my mind.
The stormtrooper on the dewbacks is actually Robert Patrick, the T2 Terminator, the silver one. That's him. As just coloured black with white armor on the top of him.
What?
Yeah. George was obsessed with this recycling. The only things that were brand new were the dewbacks, and they worked fine. But I remember whenever I moved the Wonto's head back, the chest kind of bulged out, and it's because they had put the pivot points for the neck really far back. So you can imagine a small movement at the back makes a big movement in the front.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I moved his head back like that, all the chest was like heaving and going up and down. I was like, what the hell is going on? And back in that, this is like 95, I was working on that. And I didn't know anything about rigging, which is the placing of the skeleton or the skeleton underneath the geometry. I didn't know anything about that at that time. I do now. But there's so many examples where I wish I could go back in time and fix things that were set up wrongly. Oh well. I'm not gonna. I think they've messed with Star Wars enough. I'd rather leave it.
Yeah, let's leave it alone.
Leave it be.
So obviously, as we mentioned earlier, when you worked for ILM, you got to work on Star Wars, as we've said.
Mhm.
But you didn't just get to animate, you got to play Boba Fett, as you've mentioned. How on earth did that come about?
Actually, those two things are unrelated. Like when I got given, they said they had 2 animator positions for New Hope, and I didn't think that because I was new to ILM. I didn't think I was still a hope in hell. And then it reduced to 1 because John Knoll said, "I'm going to take all the spaceships. So we just need 1 guy for doing creatures." I didn't think I was going to get picked, but I did, and that all worked out. But the Boba Fett blue screen shoot happened while I was working on Casper.
Oh.
So it happened in December of '94. It's funny because it's documented '94, shot in '94. That happened 7 months before I got assigned the creature animator. So those 2 things they might be related, but they didn't come at the same time. I was working on Casper and got to do the Boba Fett shoot, and later on did the creatures. But how did I end up in a suit?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've
Well,
got some juicy tea coming here.
the archives are off limits to ILM employees. You'd think that they were, that we'd have access, but not allowed in the archives. And the archives are over in the ranch. So ILM's in San Rafael, and Lucas Ranch is way off. It's like a good hour drive to get to Lucas Ranch from ILM. So if you're going for lunchtime, that's a long lunch. You're going to be gone 3 hours. It was off limits, and it just so happened that a guy I met in London while I was working on commercials just happened to be working there as well, and we met each other and I was like, "What the hell? I just saw you 6 months ago in England." Went, "Oh yeah, I work here. Yeah, I know everybody. I know the guy who runs the archives. You're a big Boba Fett fan, right? I can get you in the archives." I went, "Oh my god, I just want to touch a piece of armor, that'd be enough." So he arranged it. I went along to the archives with him. It was like a dream come true. I got to sit in the land speeder. I got to totally manhandle one of the Boba Fett suits. I got to put the Indiana Jones jacket on and a hat. I got to pick up all these and touch all these things that were sacred. They're like Star Wars props. The thermal detonator. It was heaven. Heaven. So anyway, so that happened. But in that happening, the guy who runs the archives, Don Bees, knew I was a huge Boba Fett fan. So fast forward a few, 4 months, suddenly they put an email out to all of ILM saying we need volunteers to be stormtroopers for this summit they're arranging at the ranch. And so, everyone responded, I want to be a stormtrooper. Not just me, like me and 125 other people. So yes, please, I beg you, can I please do it? So the response was so huge, they thought, oh, if we have this much volunteers, we can do something a bit bigger than we were intending. They originally were intending to show the newly cut trailers for the re-releases of the 3 movies. To kind of show it they're going to do another theatrical release of the originals to bring in this new generation of the children of the fans that were now fans. And they were going to have, at the end of the trailers, and in the audience were all the license holders, like Dark Horse Comics or Kenner Toys or Bantam Books or whoever it might be. All those guys were in the audience. They get to see the trailers get all juiced up. And then all these stormtroopers were meant to come down. Like, oh my God, I'm stormtroopers, like real stormtroopers. And then Darth Vader You hear him coming in. Oh, no, I've got my voice maker. Darth Vader comes in. We would be honored if you would join us. And then they have cocktails. So the cocktails, now they had 125 volunteers. They thought, oh, instead of just doing cocktails, just a boring cocktail bar, how about we rebuild the Cantina Mos Eisley bar and have tables and aliens and the band playing, and Saunty was checking IDs on the door, and the droids there and the speeder parked there, and just populate this Cantina bar. So he said, I'm sorry, he goes, we haven't got a stormtrooper suit for you. I'm like, ah. He goes, but there's another character I'm sure you'll be interested in. I'm like, oh my God, really? And he said, don't get too excited. He goes, I know what you're thinking, but don't get too excited, because if you don't fit the flight suit, if you don't happen to be the right proportions to Jeremy, because Jeremy just happened to fit the suit, that's how he got the part. He just happened to be the right body proportions for the suit. Come along one lunchtime. I went the very next lunchtime. Come along one lunchtime and try the suit on. So I was like, oh my God, I want to try the suit on tomorrow. So I went there, and that zipper going up was just like the Cinderella slipper. Cinderella having that slipper, the glass slipper being put on. I was just like, oh, Kleenex, give me Kleenex. It was like I thought just touching the armor was enough. Now I was wet. They decided, oh, well, while you're here, we just put everything on to make sure we have all the pieces. Oh, okay. And it was the Iron Man being suited up.
Yeah.
And they took Polaroids from the front side, so they had something to show the costumer for the event, so they knew they could get all the pieces right. So not putting spats on your wrist or something. No spats going on your ankles, So that's how I got to jump into the suit and do this summit. And they said, okay, you've got to pretend to be Boba Fett for 4 hours. Can you do that? I'm like, oh, I'm sure I could do that. So for 4 hours, I was in the suit. They were like, yeah, I've got to have a break. No. They forced me to have a break. One time, they forced me to have a break. And I'm sitting there. I drink water. I drank water. I'm sitting there with a helmet on my lap, waiting to go back in, looking like a school kid, And they're like, okay, you can go back in. Okay. I went back in. Did that summit, which was like heaven. It was like, if you can imagine wearing the real suit in the Cantina bar with aliens all reacting to you, with humans drinking, it was the closest. It's like a VR experience, except you could touch everything. Everything was real.
Oh.
So that, out of all the times, was the best experience. Like better than a blue screen shoot, because there was actually, you gave a look to the aliens, and they were, oh, they move away, and everyone just was down. They were like perfect. Everyone was in character. It was surreal. It was so good that they said, would you mind doing a second one? Okay, I'll do a second one. When's that going to be? Like, in a month's time. Sure, sign me up. So did another 4 hours walking around with a blaster, being Boba Fett, loving it. So if you go forward to like November of that year, this was like, summer. To the end of the year, suddenly they needed somebody who fit the suit. Like, oh, we have someone, he works here. He works for you guys. So that's how I got to be in the movies. I just happened to fit the suit, same as Jeremy did, and be on hand, and worked at ILM. So they were like, would you do it? And they said, I would do it. They said, well, first you've got to get approval from your production. So I had to go to Casper. And I was really auditing Casper's good books because I was the supervisor and animator, and we finished Casper before any other character, actually. We finished on shots with the ghostly trio or the woman in it when she becomes a ghost, and the father, Bill Pullman. But I was in the good books, so they're like, yeah, we'll even pay you for the day. So I went and did the blue screen shoot. It was the morning was the walk on, and the afternoon was the check and walk off. And December 6th, 1994.
I love that you've got that date ingrained in your mind. That's amazing. But obviously, beyond being in the film, this character's opened up so many opportunities to you. Like, beyond what that story then, I didn't even know about that. It's like, I've seen new pictures of you at conventions with Jeremy Bulloch and with Daniel Logan, with other people that have portrayed the character.
Yeah.
But also, you got to play him in a project called No Disintegration.
Yeah, that was I was talking to I got really good friends with the guy who founded the Boba Fett fan club. His name's Aaron Proctor. And we've been friends ever since he discovered me in like 96 or something like that. When I was working at Disney, he contacted me and we became friends at that stage. So fast forward 20 years, it's 2016, and we're having drinks together. And he said, I had this idea. There's this Flash animated show that runs on the Boba Fett fan club website. And this guy is a really funny writer. He's an Australian guy, and he writes these little kind of things. And he did Flash animation to them. It's Boba Fett kind of in a ship, and they're kind of funny. But I was thinking of doing like a live action version. And I said, okay, so you want me to jump in the suit? And he said, yeah. So okay, let's do it. So I thought there'd be like maybe 6 or 7 of them, and we did 22 episodes for the whole season. And this went on over maybe 2 years, space of 2 years. They released one a month. So 22 months it went for.
So
and
cool.
It was just another excuse to play Boba Fett again. So I guess I've played Boba Fett 23 times on 23 projects.
You look at it that way, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I
Amazing.
love it. I just got the idea of you getting a phone call. Sorry.
I
was just going to say that I had this thought in my head. It's like, Mark, we need you to suit up.
I was drinking a margarita at the time. It was a very easy decision. Oh, sure. But to answer your question about a lot. I never thought that I would make friends of my heroes, because my heroes are, the guys on the original trilogy. And so Jeremy Bulloch is my hero, Dickie Beer, John Morton, all those guys are just like, now they're friends of mine. Now we let's get email or get a phone call from Daniel. He's in a chatty mood. I never foresaw that, and that is pretty amazing. Just being friends with like the Cantina crew, which are all Brits. So I haven't seen them for a while since COVID, but it's fun. I get emails from like, I got an email this morning from I'm blanking on the name. You put the camera on me and I forget everyone's name. From I'll pull it up. Where is it? Who did I get an email from? Deleted it.
It meant so much. Okay.
Well, he always sends me like jokes. Oh, there it is. Nick Joseph. That's it. Nick Joseph. He was the guy that presented Princess Leia the medals.
Oh.
Luke.
Did you ask him where Chewbacca's was? Because that's the first thing I would have asked him.
I just gave him a punch. You missed out, dude. You missed it.
So before we wrap up, I did just want to briefly mention, obviously, when I was doing my original research, this interview, when I originally emailed you, it was easy, pop in your name, website, IMDb, etc. Now, if you put your name into Google, all you get back is former Boba Fett actor, furious at Disney.
Yeah. No, outraged.
Outraged at Disney.
Yeah. I'm turning over tables. I'm lighting fires. Everything in the press is true, because if it's in print, then it's true.
Of course it's true.
Yeah.
But Were you as angry as they made out that you were?
I was not so much angry, more sad. And for the reason being that even if it doesn't happen, even if they do decide to put it on, they've made it taboo from this point onwards. They've made kind of Slave One a taboo name, kind of, unofficially, but yet that's still the case. People kind of like from this point onwards, when everyone mentions Slave One, they're going to think about this ridiculousness that Disney have caused. And so I was sad that this, as a fan, it was something I've loved for 40 years, and being a Boba Fett fan, especially, and having become Boba Fett in a way, you're even more associated with that ship. Just from jumping in a suit and doing those blue screen shoots, I'm forever going to be associated with Slave One. So I was just sad that yet again they've taken something I loved and they've made it taboo, or they've given it some kind of connection to not a galaxy far, far away, but Earth. It's like all their worries are earthbound worries. And forget that this is a fantasy film about another galaxy. Like why are you even associating it with anything to do with this planet or this galaxy? It's not even this galaxy.
Well, no. They did the same thing. They tried to get rid of the name Slave Leia as well. It's Leia, and she was a slave.
But they put Princess Leia, Jabba's prisoner.
Yeah.
Like, really? Like, when I got my car and I got my personalized plates, I did try to get Slave One. And in it, you have to put context. So in the context, I put this is the name of Boba Fett's spaceship. And they didn't allow it. And I get it, because if people will see it, they kind of just read the slave bit and not even see the one, maybe. But that's the thing, is the one is that changes everything. Because if you ask somebody who knows Star Wars what Slave One is, they'll say, oh, it's Boba Fett's ship. If you ask somebody who doesn't know Star Wars, which is everyone else, you either do or you don't. So if you do know Star Wars, you're going to say it's Boba Fett's ship. If you don't, you're going to be Slave One. I don't know. I know what a slave is, but Slave One, that could be anything. So the one is not Slave Space One. It's Slave One, all one thing. So I'm not happy. Not happy, and I guess they got the message.
The press certainly did.
I didn't realize that my Twitters were gonna, especially on an account that Twitter don't recognize as being verified. So this happened like a month after Twitter said, "We don't believe you are who you say you are." Okay, and so I didn't hold much weight in my poking fun at Disney. And then suddenly, I get a phone call saying that you're in Newsweek or something in the UK, or you're on Google, or you're on the Hollywood Reporter. I was in everything. And I was like, oh my God, like, wow, I didn't realize that my voice carried that far. So it was a surprise, and I'm glad that they do know. I'm glad that Disney do know, because they'd be stupid to think that there'd be any other circumstance to their doing this, And a lot of people say, "Oh yeah, but it's just this one Lego set." They did it with all the Lego sets. Well, next time I see Slave One on some merchandise, then I'll withdraw my dispute. But I can't see that being a fact. I'm sure from this point onwards that Slave One is going to be a taboo thing, and I'm upset about that.
I can't remember what they named it now. I know they changed the name, but I can't think.
Boba Fett Starship.
It's just Boba Fett Starship, wasn't it?
Yeah. It's
but all the comment sections and everything I read completely agreed with you. So it's not just you; it's every Star Wars fan seems to be pissed about
Yeah,
it.
and I'm glad that was the case. I mean, not everyone was on my side. I did get a lot of hate from that.
Really?
Everything you say on Twitter,
Well,
you get
sure.
hate. You get hate for just being involved on the special editions. Some people hate me for it. Like, you ruined Star Wars. I just did what George told me, and
So yeah, you are responsible.
what we're
You.
gonna say? No, George, I'm not doing it. Okay, we'll get someone else to do it then.
Yeah.
Like,
People on Twitter in the future are going to be livid about this, so no, we're not doing it.
yeah.
What's Twitter? I don't know, but they're going to be pissed in about 20 years.
They're going to be pissed at this unverified somebody who claims to be Boba Fett. I don't know. It was. I'm surprised that reaction happened.
It was quite amazing because I remember scrolling through Facebook and seeing all the articles. I was like, I know him. I'm going to talk to him soon. This is amazing. Look at the timing of this.
It is weird.
Tom, have you got any more questions before we wrap up?
Yeah, one more I just want to ask, which is, did you ever think that back in the day when you're making Tetleys Tea commercials, did you ever think that life would escalate into what it's become?
No, I literally thought it was two guys that ran the company. The company name was Wyatt Catania. It was Ron Wyatt and Tony Catania. Tony Catania was the artist. Ron Wyatt was the businessman. And Tony Catania was just like a god, you know. He was the guy that designed Tony the Tiger from Frosties and stuff like that.
Amazing.
And all the things that when I grew up, I remember like the Taifu Gnu and all these commercials from my childhood that I loved, he'd done. And I was like, oh my God. He left, he retired, and Ron Wyatt was kind of grooming me to take the company over. He was taking me on all the business trips to like Portugal, talking to clients and stuff like that. And I really thought that I was going to be running my own studio, animation studio, making commercials. And I was happy with that. And so when that whole redundancy dropped, it took me by surprise. And I really thought, I had my whole life mapped out at that stage. And all of it just got chopped. And I thought, what am I going to do now? And I could never have foreseen my friend having drinks with the ILM crew and in the process getting me a job and a whole new career. Never. It's like I said, it's one of those small forks in the road.
Yeah.
And
that's incredible.
Yeah. All of them, like even the whole Boba Fett story. It just happened that I bumped into someone that I'd met in England that knew Don Bees, and yeah,
incredible, absolutely incredible.
Weird. Dreams do come true. I had two dreams as a kid. I always wanted to be Boba Fett, and I always wanted to animate Mickey and Donald, and I got to do that on that Philhar Magic show. So, and not only did that happen, that I worked on the as I said, the finale with the tornado, and this is when Mickey comes. He'd left. Donald had messed things up, and he comes back at the end. And it was Roy Disney. This is Walt Disney's nephew. Roy Disney came up to me and said, "This is the first time I've seen Mickey Mouse in 3D." And I went, "What are you talking about?" And he goes, "Well, they've attempted Mickey Mouse in the past, but it always looked like a Mickey Mouse toy that was alive. But your animation was Mickey Mouse." And I'm like, "Can I get that? Can I get that in writing?"
Yeah.
And,
what praise! That is beautiful.
And he didn't give me in writing, but the producer did. So I have the producer saying it. It was the first time he'd seen it, but it was really a Roy Disney comment.
That's
half the time I wish I had cameras for eyes just to take snapshots of the weirdness that happens in my life. So
I can imagine
weird, wonderful things. So
that's incredible.
I've been very fortuitous, put it that way.
Right, Mark, before we get out of here, if you've got time, we do like to play a quick little game with our guests.
Okay.
We literally call it the quick fire round. We ask 5 questions and you answer them as quick as you can.
I
Don't worry,
always suck at these.
Don't worry,
Okay.
it's pretty simple. For instance, your first question will be, what is your go-to karaoke song?
Go-to karaoke song. I've got so many.
Oh, great.
I would say Faith by George Michael.
Oh,
What a
what
choice.
a tune!
Your
I can do
favorite
a pretty good one. Pretty good George Michael impersonation.
I
Go
want to
on.
hear that now. Your favorite pizza topping?
Pizza topping. I mean, aside from cheese, I don't. I do love the ones that are kind of the deluxe ones, or where they put tons of meat on as well.
Yes,
Yes.
Mark.
Any of the beefy ones, that's my vote. The kids will go for margaritas and pepperoni, but give me the one with everything on, sausage on there, everything.
Great choice. What is the best impression you can do?
The best impression?
Yeah.
I don't know. I could do an Alec Guinness. I could draw. Sean Connery, baby. What's that line from Out Highlander? You have the manners of a goat and smell like a dung heap.
That's amazing. Oh, I love that. Who would play you in the movie of your life, Robert?
It would be the clone son of Benicio del Toro and what's his name? Titanic.
DiCaprio.
Leonardo DiCaprio. If you take those two faces and put them together, you kind of get my face. I'm a mixture. I'm a hybrid. Either that, or you take Alec Guinness and Ewan McGregor, put them together. You kind of get me in the middle.
I like that. Last but not least, what is one piece of advice you would give to young Master Austin?
It'll be what my mother told me, and that's to choose a career that you love doing.
Incredible.
Because that, above all the other advice I got as a kid, kind of has rung true for all these, 27 years I've been doing this, animation or movies or both. So
Incredible.
yeah, I definitely say, because it's a third of your life, choose wisely. Choose wisely. Young Luke.
Mark, any plugs, social medias, websites, anything you want people to check out?
Yes. No one visits my YouTube channel. And it's very easy. It's Boba Fett, ANHSE, A New Hope Special Edition. And I have all my my paintings or drawings on there, but time lapsed from a blank canvas to finished thing.
Oh wow!
So, yeah. So the Dewback car that I wanted to reproduce, you can see it from blank canvas all the way to the final thing in about 7 minutes.
That's incredible.
Amazing.
Yeah, and you can even see the Docker Bay 94 footage that I found. There's footage I found from somebody who just happened to be on that soundstage. So I kind of, what they've done is they sent it to me and they compressed it to sped everything up. So I had to stretch everything back out to be like normal speed. But I put that on my YouTube channel as well.
That's amazing. That must have been a weird blast in the past as well to see that again.
Well, the thing is that they had a photographer there in the morning, and he took a whole, I don't know how many rolls of film, and I only got given one print, and I've managed since then to find maybe 4 other prints, but I know there's a whole roll of film from that shoot, and George had said to him not to bother with the afternoon shoot. I wish he'd done the afternoon shoot because that was the beefier of the 2 shots, where you had to kind of make sure everyone was gone and then go off. But yeah, I wish. Hopefully, someone sees this that works in the archives and it's like, oh, we can send those to that guy.
Amazing.
Send them to me.
I'll
look after them.
I must implore everyone as well to make sure they go check out your Instagram, because if you love film and history and behind the scenes and stuff, your Instagram is amazing.
It's pretty extensive. I just started posting some behind the scenes, and they got the biggest response of people. Oh, I love seeing this. I love seeing the stuff that happened behind the camera. I'm like, well, I've got a wealth of it. I'll continue sharing it. So, yeah, it's pretty extensive so far.
So basically, Boba Fett, ANHSE, everywhere.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Mark,
sorry.
No, Karen.
The Boba Fett ANHSE, I'd have to sign, a picture of Boba Fett, and it'd been signed by Jeremy, it'd been signed by Dickie Beer, it'd been signed by John Moore, with Jason Wingreen, and they want my signature on there. And it got to a point where a lot of people were asking, "Oh, can you put Boba Fett, but after that, A New Hope Special Edition?" And it's like, oh God, Austin, Boba Fett, New Hope Special Edition. And can you draw a little helmet? Okay, draw a little helmet. And so, and then they'd give me a stack. And I'd be, oh my God. And so I said, in the end, I was like, can I just abbreviate this? So first of all, I did the A.N.H.SE, much easier. And then I lost the dot, so so it's kind of evolved. But it distinguishes me from the other Boba Fett's. So you know which one I mean.
Makes sense. Mark, this has been amazing. Thank you so much, my friend. I really enjoyed this.
You're welcome.
Yeah, absolutely.
Until the next time, right?
Definitely.
100%,
Definitely.
150,000% yes.
We got more movies to talk about.
I was going to say, we barely scratched the surface of your career.
Yeah.
So, but no, Mark, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for taking time out to talk to us. We've loved it. And we'll speak to you again soon.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much, my friend.
See you later.
Bye.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.